name is Jessica from the Brantford Public Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to paint this vintage red truck. But first, let's go over the materials that we need. So the materials that you will need for this painting is an 11 by 14 canvas. You will need 3 brushes, a large, medium, and small detailed brush. You will need 2 stencils that you should have printed out and went ahead and cut out. And for those stencils, you will need a pencil, and you're also going to need a water cup, a napkin, and some acrylic paints. Today we are using black, white, light and dark green, brown, and red. Now that we have made sure that we have all of our materials that we need, we're first going to start out with our large brush and our water. I'm going to just dip a little bit of water, knock some of it off, and we're going to wake up our canvas. Without picking up any more water, I'm going to go over our canvas and spread the water around. This helps the acrylic go on more smooth when we paint. Okay. So now that our canvas is woken up, we are going to be using our brown and white paint. I'm going to scoop up just a little bit of each on my brush. And we are going to first paint along the very edge of our canvas. If you're using a gallery style canvas, you will see this part. So I'm just going to quickly go over the edges. The white and brown is going to give a light brown color once blended together. Okay. Now, we are going to start painting our backgrounds, and we are going to work in thirds at a time. We're going to create this first board. We're going to pick up some more whites and some more brown on my brush. And I'm going to create my first line about where I want my first board to stop. And then we're going to fill it in. Okay, and once we have filled in that paint, we made sure none of that white canvas is shining through. I'm going to go back and just pick up a little bit of brown paint. And I'm going to streak in some brown. And then I'm going to, without rinsing off my brush, pick up the tiniest bits of black, and we're going to streak this throughout also. We want to make sure that we add some of these streaks along the very edge and the top. We want to make it look like it's flowing off the canvas. And if there's an area that's too dark with the black that you don't like, you can get some of that paint off your brush first and then come back to the darker area and lighten it up. Okay, and we're going to do this for the second and third board, and then we're going to come back and add our details to our boards. So now that we have filled in our whole background, we are going to define our boards, give some nails, and do the wood grain. So I put away the large brush, and now I'm going to be using the medium brush. Make sure that you rinsed out that large brush. You don't want your paint to dry on it. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and dip your medium brush in the water and pat it dry. And we are going to start with picking up some black paint and a little bit of brown. So I have both colors on my medium brush, and we're going to go along the top line. I'm going to go back and pick up more black and more brown as needed to darken it up. And it's up to you on how much black and how much brown you want to pick it up. If you pick up more brown, your lines will be lighter. More black, your lines will be darker. But I'm going to define each line. So there's going to be 2 lines in the middle. And again, I'm going to go back over that to darken it up. But we do want to remember that this is just the background. We are going to be covering a lot of the background with our truck and tree. And then there's also going to be a dark line at the very bottom. Okay. So now that we have our dark lines filled in, I'm going to pick up the same colors, the black and the brown, and I'm going to add 2 dots on each end of each board. Okay, so now we have to find where each board is going to be placed, and I'm going to rinse off my medium brush, pat it dry, and now we are going to add the wood grain textures on each board. And so you can do this however which way you like. There's multiple different ways you can add wood grain. It's nature, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You can have a lot of fun doing it different ways. So I first did a swirl for my first wood grain, and then I'm going to add U shapes, 2 of them on each side. Okay, and then I'm going to go over this, darken it up, and I'm going to add wood grains to each board. And then after we have filled in each of those boards, we're going to take our first break, and you want to make sure your background is completely dry before we come back and we stencil on our truck and tree. So you can either just let it air dry or you can take a blow dryer to it. Now that we have completely finished our background and it is dry, we are going to trace out our stencil. I went ahead and traced out my truck stencil with my pencil. And you can place it towards the middle or down to the bottom. I placed it right there. And then after I traced it out, I took my tree stencil, and you don't have to use the stencil if you don't want to, it's just there for options. And I placed it as it was sitting in the bed of the truck. And I want to trace the main outline. You don't necessarily have to trace the bottom that's fitting towards the bottom of the bed. But once you have both stencils outlined, we're going to take our small brush and we are going to fill in our Christmas tree. I'm going to use the light and the dark green working back and forth. So I'm first going to pick up some dark green. And then I'm going to go back with light green. Right on top of that dark green. And I'm going to work my way throughout the whole tree. And I want to make sure when I get towards the bottom of the tree that we're filling in those gaps in between the wood boards. Just like that. And that's using both the light and the dark green. So we were just working on filling in our Christmas tree with the light and the dark green. We filled in the sections between the board. We want to make sure we have a little bit hanging off the side. And you can either work from the top down or the bottom up, going back and forth between the light and the dark green until we have filled it all the way in. And once we're done with the green tree, we are going to start filling in these gray sections on the truck. So we're going to take our white and our black paints, more white than black, just a little bit of black to the white. And we're going to mix until we are happy with a gray color. And we are going to fill in our window, the bumpers, and the parts in between the wood boards. Okay, so we just use our black and white mixture to fill in these gray areas on the truck. I want to make sure that everybody filled in the rim of their tire with that gray. And then I rinsed off my small brush and I'm going to fill in the wood boards. I'm going to pick up brown and black, more brown than black on my brush at the same time. We're going to fill in those gaps. Just like that. And then you are going to repeat that step for the second board. Okay, so now that we have finished filling in both of our wood boards, we are going to switch to our medium-sized brush and we are going to start filling in the red on the truck. I want to start with the section above the tire first because we want these brush strokes to go in the U-shaped back and forth. And it is going to take 2 coats of red, so we're just going to go ahead and go around and do our first coat of red. Above our tire. Okay, just like that. And then, still using the medium brush, we're going to fill the inside of the tire. And you're going to want to repeat that step for the other tire. And then after you have done that, we are going to work on filling in the rest of our truck red. And when we come back, we're going to fill in the black and the white details. Okay, so now we should have I added about 3 coats of the red to the truck. And I made sure it was dry. It's very important that it's dry because now we are going to be adding the black and the white details to the truck. So I'm using the smallest brush and I'm going to pick up some black paint. And we're going to first outline above the tire. So that's that U-shaped area that we filled in. Okay, and we want to do that on both sides. I'm going to go over that again to fill it in better, but then we want to connect in between those two top parts of the tire. And from there, we want to create our door. So starting from this top left corner, I'm going to paint a line all the way down to this bottom line we just painted, like that. I'm going to go ahead and outline the top part of the truck. And I had noticed that I did not fill in the top light. So if you were also like me, make sure that this part is also filled in gray. But then from this outline, we're going to create the inside line of the door. So I'm going to start on the bottom line, just a little bit over. We want to do it about halfway in between the window and this outside line. You're going to bring your line up, over, and then your line is going to come down at an angle, just like the front part of the window. And right about where this window stops, we're going to stop that line and then continue with the straight line down to the top part above the tire. And then I'm going to move over to the tree, and we're just going to add little lines throughout the tree. You want to make sure you do some along the edges, and you also want to add a few on the green that's showing in between the wood boards. And then I'm going to, still using that small brush, we're going to fill in the rest of the outlines with the truck with black. And we also want to fill in the truck tire with black, and then we'll come back and outline with our white. Okay, so now your truck should look a little something like this with our black outline. And now we're still using this small brush. You want to make sure you rinse it out real good and you dry it off. You don't want any of that black paint to mix with your white paint, because now we're going to do our white outlines. So we are going to have some little lines in the tree also, like we did the black lines. Add those throughout. And then we're going to work around our truck, and along the corners, we're going to get some right angles. And around our tire, where the rim is at, in between the gray and the black, we're going to fill that in with our whites. Okay, and if your paint is still wet, the black paint, and you do pick up some of it on your brush, make sure that you wipe it off or you clean your brush again, because you don't want it to mix in with the red, with the other white areas. So we got a few highlights around our door, and we're going to do some more of those right angles. I'm going to do our opposite sides of the window. Along this top corner. And it's really up to you, wherever you feel like you want your truck to be shiny at. You're going to add some of those right angles along the corners. I'm going to add a little shimmer in the light along this bottom. And we also got some shimmers along the tire and one right above it. But I'm going to continue using the white on the small brush, add some more throughout the tree, and we're going to fill out these sections on the tire. So now your painting should look something like this. We just finished doing the black outline and then the white outline with the detail. And if you hadn't painted the bottom of your canvas yet, this part right here, now would be a good time to flip your canvas upside down if you're using an easel, and you can easily paint that bottom section. But if you've already done that, you don't have to worry about it. And all that you'll need left to do is your signature. I usually like to put mine in the bottom right, but you can add it on the truck or wherever you like. You should be proud of your painting and you should want to put your name on it. And thank you for joining us today for painting our vintage red truck. Join us in January for another adult craft.